before we get into the material, thank the people who make this happen. People like Wales and West and the Pobble Group have been great supporters of ours, and in terms of sponsorship, and therefore they make these sort of things happen. So very much thank you to them. So let's get into who I am. I'm David Wilton. Here's a terrible picture of me, and my email address is there, my Twitter handle. So afterwards, if you do wish to discuss anything with me, I'd be delighted. I enjoy this subject, and I'd welcome further conversation. So we're going to talk today about crowdfunding in your community, what you need to know. It's going to be a quick run through of the key principles. I'm hoping after this you'll have a good idea of crowdfunding, and then also with that document as well that comes with it, you'll be able to get started and do amazing things. This is a really positive thing to be doing, crowdfunding. So what is not, before we get started, because the reason I put this in was yesterday I had a conversation with somebody and they thought it was crowdsourcing. So let's get this out first. So crowdsourcing is the practice of obtaining information or coming together with policy or tasks by enlisting people, a large number of people remotely, usually by the internet, to develop ideas or concepts or products. This is not what we're talking about today. So in the slide it says Lego is a classic example. They allow people to submit ideas and for new products, and they vote on it, and whoever's the best idea. It's a bit like tenant participation, really. And then if Lego develop that product, the actual person's idea gets 1% of the royalty, which is not like tenant participation, really. Anyway, so that's crowdsourcing. That's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about crowdfunding. So crowdfunding is a way of raising money to fund a project by raising small contributions each time from a large amount of people. So it's the direct opposite of going to something like the lottery and asking one person for a lot of money, or asking for lots of people for a small amount of money, and usually for an incentive, which we'll talk about later. So I hope that makes sense as the definition. Picture saying the same thing I've already said, that one-to-one or crowdfunding small sums from large amount of individuals. So today we're going to cover the different models, some examples, what we need to consider to make it work. And I think that's key, is just because you start a crowdfunding campaign doesn't mean to say it's going to work. If you follow these instructions, though, it's in today and in the guide, it'll show you how to make it work and what platform might be right for you. So look, the slide isn't great on here, but effectively there are three basic models. So the first one is just straightforward donation based. So you've got a cause or a charity or a belief or something you want people to help you fund, and you put it out there and say, please help me. And I've donated to things like that. Where I live in my community, there's some people fighting Plan by Natural Resources Wales to flood a woodland. And so I've contributed. I don't need anything back for it. I support the campaign, and I've made a donation. And I've done a number of those over the years for things I believe in. So straightforward. You're targeting people who think the same as you. Yep. Second one is reward based, and this is much more complex, but can be much more more successful, and also build a supporter base. So for this one is, if you give me some money, or donate to this campaign, we'll give you something back. And that can be simple. Like the first one I ever did on this was somebody wanted to publish a book, and they said, if you give £7 when the book comes out, we'll send it to you. Great. If you give us £10, you'll get a signed copy from the author. And there was various things like that. There was £15, you can come to the launch party. Or, and we'll come back to ego later, for £25, I think it was, you can have your name on the front first page of people who made this happen. I paid the £25. Appealing to people's ego. So I was on the front page of this person who I loved a bit, book, and there I was with people who made it happen. So reward based, you give, and those rewards might be structured for how much you give. And the last one we're not going to talk about today is equity based, and this is to do with businesses who want people to invest in their business, and there can be things like loan based, so then you get dividends back. There can be a stake in the company, or there can be often things like give money to this company's development, and when we develop the first product you'll get one, and things. There's a lot of regulation, there's a lot of complication, legalities to it, and risk, both sides. And I don't think that's what we're looking at with Cheapass and yourselves as an audience in your community stuff. I don't think you're at that complicated level. Happy to talk about it, somebody one-to-one, but not today. So is crowdfunding right for you? And I think as we go through this, you'll hopefully make that decision. But I think there's a couple of things. I put this slide on last night because I think you've got to have a clear target as to what you're after. Is that financial? And is it realistic? You need time to create a campaign as well. Think out. If you're going to do reward-based, what type of rewards are you going to do? You need people around you to help you. You might want to make a video. We'll see some examples later. Videos work really well to get across your cause. You need people to, if you're going to offer incentives, like give us £7 and you get a book when it comes out, you've got to send them the book. So there's people, your logistics you need to think about. And that's probably goes into point 4, the resources to follow through. And you've got to have a belief that there are people out there, or communities or section sites. They might be remote online, they might be local, but do they believe in? Are they going to come rally round and support your fundraising target? So let's have a look at a couple of examples. I like example-based stuff, and I think it just helps clarify in people's minds what we're talking about. So the first one was a simple, somebody was looking to create a zero waste store. You may be quite fashionable over the last year or so, taking your own containers and you fill up your pasta or peanut butter or whatever you want. So they were looking for, I think they were looking for the money to help fit out the store and also test the market, see if there was demand. And they're looking for £4,000, 28 days, and that's what they got. Average donation, £15 to £20, and the incentives were things like free goods when you got in, or a discount card, and so not a lot of downside to that. I'd say small amount of money, they raised it, and it gave them confidence that they were on track. Next one, this one's just got there, but I think, so this was around creating a not-for-profit magazine to keep it going. They were looking for people who believed in what they did. So it's that sort of, we believe in what you're doing. For £12,000, they managed to do it in 35 days. It had an extension, I still remember. I think it was originally meant to be 30 days and they extended it. Average donation, £40. They are people who really believe. So they've tapped into people who've gotten some money and believe in their cause. And I think it helped that they had a celebrity endorsement. So those in Wales watching this, Yola Williams, good known celebrity, people love him, and therefore got behind that, his support for the campaign. So this is a more local one for me in Cardiff, Wyndham Street. They were looking to renovate a little bit of a rundown community centre, looking for 8,500. They did struggle with this, and I think they were originally going to do one to 30 days, and it took them 3 months. They did get there. Average donation £20. I think though, when Rosie and myself looked at this, I think it goes into the category of just because you create a campaign doesn't mean to say people will know about it, people will get on board. I think there was no incentives. So this is a community centre, it costs money for children's parties, all sorts of stuff, have a meeting. You've got the average donation 20, but for £40, maybe you could have had, when it was renovated, free hire for an hour or something, or a discount for when it was renovated. I think they could have done more with the incentives, and certainly done more with the promotion and marketing. They were targeting just their own natural supporters in their local area, and I think you need to do wider than that. There's got to be somebody who's from that area who's now in Canada or America, somewhere, who's doing well and would gladly put some money in, who remembers it fondly. I think marketing is key to good crowdfunding. And Big Moose, this is one of my favorite ones. They were looking to open an ethical coffee shop involving people who've been homeless as well, to train them. And they were looking for £20,000, and they did really innovative incentives. So, for £5, got a free coffee when we opened. Well, people just don't walk in and say, "Can I have a free coffee?" and walk out. They might buy a cake. They might bring a friend with them who's buying. They'll photograph it. Here's my free coffee. That ego thing. They did very well. I think on the next page, it shows some of the incentives. It may not come out very well here, but things like a badge, free coffee. For £20, you got a free drink for 4 and 2 cakes. So between you, well, they're going to come in. They'll probably come back again. The bet 3 of them probably hadn't heard of the place. The one person who bought that package bring 3 friends. They might then bring friends in the future. So I think it was a great way of getting started. They wanted £20,000 and they got £30,000. I think it was a matter of like 2 weeks or something. Really clever campaign, Big Moose. I put this one because it's a really small one. So this school in Bryn Mill, which is in Swansea, had their goalpost stolen. Some people ran off with them, £140. So they put a quick crowdfunding on there saying, look for £140. In that morning, in 4 hours, they got £365 before they switched it off. So they got, what's that? 3 times what they were looking for in 4 hours. And that was people who'd been to the school, lived in the area, just felt sorry for them. They're their goalposts and maybe football supporters. But the point is, woke up that morning, we've had a goalpost stolen. By lunchtime, problem solved. And I think there's a lesson there for all of us. And this is a commercial one, the last of the examples, because these 2 lads were looking to open a craft ale bar, pub in Penarth. They did a really genuine video talking about their passion for real ale, and what they offered was, if you gave £50 when they opened, you got a £50 voucher credit and 10% off their beers for life. I did it, and what I noticed, I did out of curiosity, and not because I just love beer. What I liked about it was that in their video they talked about they already got the funding. This was just pre-sales, so they sold like £16,000 worth of beer before they even opened. And you didn't get it. You paid £50 and you got £50 credit. So they just pre-sold it, gave them confidence in what they were doing. I think they invited people to a launch when they opened. I couldn't make it. But what I liked about it was I was going down there and I was bringing friends. I've got a beer tab, 50 quid, come on with me. Let's see what we can do with it, So I think it's a nice way of backing up your belief in what you're doing. So that was enough of the examples. Oh, there's one more. Doesn't matter. We'll skip that one. So what if you read some of the sites that do crowdfunding, they talk about, look what's worked in the past, like-minded campaigns. I think there's things you can. What were the average donations? What incentives were taken up? Which ones weren't? Look at the FAQs. I think this is a valid one. Look at what people asked, and that might preempt for you that you might be able to cover in your FAQs or cover in your video or in your pitch. And look what the imagery and things used, and how do they communicate. I think there's a lot we can learn from the past. So the advantage of crowdfunding over, well, firstly is the reach. Digital platforms, you can use Twitter, Facebook, things like that, and get your message out there. That Big Moose example we showed a couple of slides back for Cardiff, there was people donating from America, people donating from all around the world who either had a Cardiff connection or supported the idea of a cafe helping people with learning disabilities. Homeless it was, wasn't it? And therefore, that reach, it wasn't just local people helping them fund their campaign. It's also easy to use. These things to help set up. There's a number of platforms you can do crowdfunding on. You can do the updates quickly. You can inspire people, add content. And I do like the ease of use of crowdfunding. And it's the testing and reassurance. So for the lads who are opening the Real Ale bar, you know, they already had the lease for the setup and everything else, but they sold £16,000 worth of beer before they opened. It's that reassurance that we're onto something here. And you can see what people get behind. There's a trust side to it as well, I think. It builds that connection with people. You know a bit more about the people before they open, or what they're trying to do with that campaign. It's efficient as well. It's online donations. You're not shaking buckets. You're not having to go around. You're not having to fill in application forms after application to the lottery and things. And it builds a loyalty as well. I know I go to that bar. I know I go to certain things that I've crowdfunded because I feel like I've helped make it happen, you know. And I think that's just as important as the money you raise. Stretch goals as well. You can set, like our target is 20,000. If you get there, keep going. You know, if there's an enthusiasm there, and that wider reach I've already talked about. You know, in terms of getting your message out there. It might get picked up in the news. It might get picked up elsewhere. What you're trying to do. My top tip though is appeal to the ego. I'm so egotistical. I've even put a picture of myself next to it just to emphasize that point. What I talk about that is like things like when Big Moose did it, they were asking people to donate £5, £20, things like that. But what they did also say was for £100, on our big plasma screen in the cafe for I think it was 6 weeks, your name will be up on there as people who made this happen. So £100, you had your name in lights, as in your name on a plasma screen for 6 weeks. And I think 8 people did that straight away. That's £800. You have to do nothing except put their name on the screen. Easy money, that is. And it's appealing to people's ego. There's a lot of case studies of that. People who helped renovate a theatre could have their names on the side, you know, patrons and stuff like that. We used to see this called buy a brick and things, you know, your name would go on a roll of honor or something. Appeal to people's egos. People will donate more if they think that they get some sort of recognition for it. I hope that makes sense. So what are the challenges? Well, what platform to use? There's a number of them, and some of them have rules. So some are more suitable for charities, some for individuals, things like that. And there's fees. They take fees. You know, there may be a setup fee. It might be per donation. I'll show you an example in a minute, but you have to factor that in. You won't, if you raise £25,000, you won't get a check for £25,000. It'll probably be about 23,500. So you have to factor that in. If you need 25,000, you might have to raise 27. You know, there's an application process, lots of things to, especially if you're a charity and your registration numbers and things like that. You need a little, you know, it's a form. You know, some of them also have strict rules of they won't release the money to you if you don't hit that target, and people don't want to donate the money unless it hits the target. So if you're raising £10,000 to buy a piece of land, well, if you get to £5,000, you can't buy the land. People don't want you to just have that. Hey, here's £5,000. Then the money just doesn't get taken out of their account or get refunded to them. Some of those platforms are quite strict. There are targets, and if you hit that target, great. And that the investors want to see that, you know, and they because you can't do anything with a half the fund. So if you fall short, you might be back to square one. The challenge is also finding your audience, and that goes back into your creativity and your team enthusiasm. And the challenge is also that you've got to fulfill anything. So if you've promised everybody gets a mug who donates, then you're going to have to basically pack up and go around the post office and post all those mugs. It's a bit of a pain, to be honest. So careful what incentives you do offer. And getting that average donation higher. I'll show you this later. It's really important. You try and get the average donation up. It's to do with how the fees work. So if all your donors are just donating £5, you're going to lose more each time of that donation. If you can get people to donate £20, you'll lose maybe the same amount, but that's a much smaller percentage of the £20, if that makes sense. So that's a real challenge. So there's common mistakes. It's in the guide we were talking about today. Too short time scale. You know, you need time to get your message out there. You know, 2 weeks isn't always enough. That one with Big Moose worked because the Western Mail and the South Wales Echo all splashed it because they managed to get stories in there all over the paper, and that's how I heard about it, was from the paper. So common stake also not promoted enough, not enough variety of incentive or that will appeal to different people, and also choosing bulky items and expensive items to post. So like I said about the mug, I saw one campaign, it was £10 and you've got a mug. Well, if you ever had to make printed mugs up, they actually cost about £5–6. Then you got to package them up, some packaging box for it. Then you got to take it down the post office. Actually, at £10, you're probably wasting your time. You know, you may not be making much out of it. So, what platform? Ultimately, it's all in here. You know, in the guide. Oh, sorry, on the screen. Look in the guide. It shows which ones work for charities, which ones work for your organisation, and that say you could be some will have very low fees for charities. Some will have, you know, slightly allow you to be if you're a legally formed organisation, you know, friends of something or a community interest company or something. And then there's some who just do individuals. So, you know, there are individuals who crowdfund operations, crowdfund even stupid things like boob jobs and all sorts of stuff on those platforms, but they'll take a little bit more fee for things like that. So we're to talk about our average donation. I hope you can see this page, but if you just look at the first line of the box, for £10,000, if your average donation was £10, you're pretty much going to get £9.41 each time. Does that make sense? So they're actually going to take about 10% of your donation. Whereas if you can get to £20, get an average donation of £20 there, they'll actually be taking 9%. And you see how it goes, the average donation, the percentage taken goes down. Whereas that row 4, where the average donation of £5, because of the fees they take per donation, they're going to take a whopping 13% of your pot. And you don't want to be giving away 13.5% of your pot. So getting the donation is really key. As I say, you're unlikely to get average donation of £50 unless you're doing something really special or appealing to a niche set of wealthier people. But that's when you can get the fees down to about 8% then. Hope that makes sense. I think maybe just one to look out after. And it's obviously in the guide in much more detail with notes as well. So that's really what I was going to cover. That's the basics. I hope I've covered the types of donations, the donation-based, you know, incentive of the company type ones, some of the advantages, disadvantages. I've shown you some examples. Guide out. I'm more than happy to talk over the phone to anybody and clarify anything. Or if you're putting a proposal together. So I think Ken has said, I've been asked to help fund the local community farm. Okay, so community farm would be, you need to, for crowdfunding, you need to be saying, what do you want people to donate to? Is it a piece of equipment? Is it, people like to see what you're donating to. It could just be is it to get it open or is it to keep it going? I think you have to define what the community farm needs and therefore set some kickstarting goals. I'm more than happy to talk to you over the phone about this, Ken. We've spoken already this week. And we can look at, you know, how you define the campaign. What incentives would you give? You know, is there anything? Or are you just asking straight for donations? You know, donate, buy a goat or something. So crowdfunding for some livestock, quite like that. You'd have to talk about what the benefits would be for, you know. Yeah, we'll pick us up over the phone, shall we? And so he's got a project in mind as well. So and it's a useful tool down your toolbox. Absolutely. Once you've had to think about what you want to do and your project, again, Bill, I can more than happy to come and over the phone or come and see you and let's brainstorm it all out, you know, and put a proposition together. I think we'll just stop it now, and I'll send you the document out, or Yana probably will. She's a bit more efficient than I am. And thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed this, and speak to you soon. Take care.